Hello, my name is Makis. I am a nuclear medicine radiologist and oncologist based in Edmonton, Alberta. Last month, I published 3 articles on pedophilia, child sex abusers, and child pornographers at the highest levels of the Alberta healthcare system. These stories went viral internationally. They were read by millions of people all around the world. And of course, they were completely ignored by Alberta's mainstream media, who have been ignoring this issue for a long time. I'm going to briefly describe these 3 stories to you because the details are absolutely horrific and they show just how much rot and corruption there is in Alberta's healthcare system and judicial system. The first story involves an Alberta Health Services executive, a top executive, Dr. Albert Desvilliers. Dr. Albert Desvilliers was an AHS Chief Medical Officer of Health during Rachel Notley's NDP government from 2015 to 2019. He was the Chief Medical Officer of Health of the Northern Zone. There are 5 zones in Alberta, so he was one of the top 5 doctors in Alberta. He reported to AHS CEO Dr. Verna Yu and AHS Chief Medical Officer Dr. Francois Bélanger. During Rachel Notley's government, starting in 2017, Dr. Desvilliers started sexually assaulting a 7-year-old boy. And according to the RCMP, at least 2 other children. He continued these sexual assaults while employed as an AHS executive, but he also had another position. He was appointed by Rachel Notley and her health minister, Sarah Hoffman, as the pediatrics lead in the Alberta Ministry of Health. So he was given a top position as the leader of pediatricians, despite the fact that he had no pediatrics training whatsoever. He started sexually assaulting a 7-year-old boy in 2017, and these assaults continued until July of 2020 when he abruptly left Alberta to British Columbia. We don't know why he left, but in British Columbia, the BC NDP government gave him another top healthcare position, this time as the Chief Medical Officer of Health of BC Interior Health, reporting to Dr. Bonnie Henry, who's the public health chief for the entire province. So this was another top executive position. He was then arrested in 2021. And while he was awaiting trial, he was put on paid leave by the BC NDP government and was subsequently paid over $700,000 in salary after having been arrested for child sex abuses. He was paid over $700,000 until he was convicted in the summer of 2023, when he was given a 5.5-year sentence in prison. So this is an individual who was the top Chief Medical Officer of Health in Alberta, then became the Chief Medical Officer of Health in British Columbia, where he oversaw lockdowns, masking, rollout of COVID-19 vaccines, and of course, abuses of doctors who try to treat their COVID patients and were writing vaccine exemption letters and so on. Now, the BC government suspended those doctors without pay, but a child sex offender, BC NDP government gave him over $700,000. You can confirm this. This was reported by the mainstream media. This story should have ended Rachel Notley's government, and it should have ended the BC NDP government. 2 provincial Canadian governments should have collapsed with this story alone. Instead, it was barely reported in the mainstream media. There are 2 very serious details about this case. The first is that during the trial, he produced 28 reference letters from top healthcare executives in Alberta and British Columbia who said he was a good man, that he was a man of faith, and that these healthcare executives would trust their children with him. These 28 healthcare executives in Alberta and British Columbia were trying to keep him out of jail. Their names have not been released. Their names should be released because we should know who are the 28 top healthcare executives who are protecting a child sex offender who was molesting a 7-year-old boy. Very shocking story. Another important point about this is that the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta has kept his Alberta license pristine and clean. And there is no indication on the college website of the offenses that he engaged in. It says his license is currently inactive. However, under disciplinary actions, it says none. He has a clean medical license, and when he serves a much shortened sentence, he will come back, and the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta will give him his license back as if nothing happened. That's the first case. The second case involves Dr. Fred Janke. Dr. Fred Janke was the president of the Alberta College of Family Physicians. There are two colleges of physicians in Alberta. There's the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta, which handles the licenses of 11,000 Alberta doctors. And then there's a separate college for family physicians that connects family physicians all across Canada, and that doesn't issue licenses, but it does issue guidelines to doctors, family doctors, how to practice medicine. He was the president of the Alberta College of Family Physicians during Rachel Notley's NDP government from 2015 to 2019. In 2017, he went to a specific website and a specific chat room where he started attempting to traffic a 5-year-old girl from Victoria, British Columbia, to purchase her, to traffic her to Alberta, to have sex with, and to produce child pornography with. What he didn't know was that he was conversing with an undercover police officer, Victoria police officer. He conversed with this undercover police officer for 9 months. For 9 months, the Victoria police were collecting evidence of what he was planning to do to this 5-year-old child. Again, a reminder, under Rachel Notley's government, he is the president of the Alberta College of Family Physicians. This is one of the highest healthcare positions you can have. And as such, he would have been connected to all the elite healthcare executives in Alberta that he would have been on very good terms with. Once the Victoria police had enough evidence, they contacted the Alberta RCMP, and he was arrested. He was arrested in 2018 in June. Now, he was awaiting trial. What's interesting about this case is that a few days before his trial in Edmonton, the Alberta Crown prosecutors dropped prosecution of the case and let him go. Now, this is a case where he was trying to traffic a 5-year-old girl from British Columbia into Alberta to have sex with and produce child pornography. There was 9 months of evidence collected by Victoria Police, and the Alberta Crown prosecutor dropped the case entirely with no explanation. In fact, the spokesman for the Alberta Justice and Solicitor General under Jason Kenney's government confirmed that the Alberta Crown Prosecution Service has independently determined that there was no longer a reasonable likelihood of conviction and stayed the charges, dropped all charges. It is my hypothesis that the Alberta Crown prosecutors were covering up for a child sex trafficking ring involving British Columbia and Alberta and the elites who participated in trafficking children. And they could not allow this doctor to go to trial and potentially expose other clients or expose whoever else might have been involved in this child trafficking ring. That is my hypothesis based on all the evidence available. The story gets worse. Once the Crown prosecutors dropped all charges, he demanded back his medical license. In April of 2021. And on April 22nd, 2021, the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta reinstated his medical license. And they only gave him a condition that he would have to have a chaperone when he was in the presence of a minor. And of course, when the COVID pandemic hit, this chaperone could be on a Zoom call. That was the only restriction. So they gave him back access to Alberta's children. This is very important because, again, this is April 2021. This is the same time that the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta is persecuting doctors for treating COVID patients with early treatments, for writing vaccine exemption letters. They're stripping doctors of their licenses. They're launching complaints against these doctors. They are damaging their medical licenses, making sure they can't practice medicine anywhere else. But if you tried to traffic a 5-year-old child, to have sex with and make child pornography with, the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta bent over backwards to give you back your medical license and give you access to Alberta's kids. This is our College of Physicians and Surgeons. This is what they're doing. They are active participants in the sexual abuses of Alberta children. Active participants. Now, it is important to note in this case that he continued to practice medicine from April 2021 until his retirement in February of 2023 with a clean medical license in Alberta. And under disciplinary actions on the college websites, it still says none. And the reasons for having a chaperone are not even disclosed. So this doctor was allowed to practice medicine for 2 years during the pandemic when other doctors who were treating their COVID patients with early treatments, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, and were writing vaccine exemption letters, mask exemption letters, or were trying to give informed consent about the COVID vaccines and the dangers of the vaccines, those doctors were being stripped of their licenses, but child sex offenders had their licenses pristinely kept and were allowed to not only practice medicine, but have access to children. That is what the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta did. That's the second case. The final case is another shocking case of a pediatrician, an Alberta pediatrician who was arrested at the Edmonton airport with child pornography. And they had actually tracked, he was trying to distribute child pornography involving a child between ages of 6 and 11 years old. So this was Dr. Ghassan Al-Nami, pediatrician, arrested for child pornography in 2019, in August of 2019, while he was awaiting trial. The College of Physicians and Surgeons initially had asked him to voluntarily give up his license, but then he wanted his license back while he was awaiting trial. So the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta gave him back his medical license. When did they do that? They gave him back his medical license in September of 2021, while he's awaiting trial. They give him back his medical license, again, pristine, clean, no record that he had done anything wrong. And they gave him access to Alberta's children with a chaperone that you could do over Zoom. In August of 2023, Dr. Al-Nami was convicted of 2 child pornography offenses. But it's important to note that for 2 full years, from September of 2021 until August of 2023, the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta allowed him to practice medicine and have access to Alberta's kids with a pristine medical license. Who are the people who are protecting pedophiles and child sex abusers in Alberta at the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta? Well, the registrar of the college is Dr. Scott McLeod, appointed by the NDP government in 2017, still active as registrar. He has protected these pedophiles and child sex abusers. The associate registrar and the complaints director is Dr. Michael Cafaro. Dr. Michael Cafaro's father was a judge. He was the associate chief justice of the Alberta Provincial Court. This is a legal mafia. He controls all the complaints at the college and the licenses and how the licenses are affected. So he determines if a person is stripped of their license or if they keep a beautiful, pristine, clean license, as these child sex abusers did. Dr. Michael Cafaro has been in his position since 2015, appointed by the NDP government, Rachel Notley's government, in 2015. Dr. Michael Cafaro's lawyer, the head legal counsel for the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta, is Mr. Craig Boyer of Shores Jardine. Craig Boyer has been the lead counsel for the college since about 2005, but he inherited that practice from his father, who was the lead counsel for the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta since the 1970s. In fact, you can find cases of his father, Donald Boyer, sabotaging doctors and their medical licenses back in the 1970s. This is a family, a mafia, lawyer mafia family that has been controlling all the legal processes at the college since the 1970s. One more thing I will add is that the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta is a private corporation. You cannot do a Freedom of Information request, and it does not answer to the provincial government, despite the fact that it is constituted under the Health Professions Act, which the provincial government has full control over. This is the situation in Alberta, and I've just scratched the surface of the pedophilia, the child sex abuses, the child pornography, and the people who protect these child abusers who are engaging in these crimes. So once again, top Alberta Health Services executives who gave reference letters to a child sex offender, 28 of them, who gave reference letters to the court. Then we've got the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta that is protecting people engaging in child pornography, giving them medical licenses, allowing them to practice with a clean record for 2 years during the pandemic while they were stripping honest, hardworking doctors who were trying to protect their COVID patients and were trying to give them informed consent about the COVID vaccine, were writing vaccine exemption letters. Those doctors were stripped of their licenses. Those doctors were targeted by the college while the pedophiles and child sex abusers were protected. And finally, we have the Alberta Crown prosecutors that dropped the charges of all charges of Dr. Fred Janke and for Dr. Albert Devilliers, who was convicted and sentenced to 5.5 years in prison. The 2 other children that he molested, the Alberta Crown prosecutors dropped the charges. So these are the people who are protecting the child sex abusers in our beautiful province of Alberta. Thank you very much.
Well, that's some pretty sick shit. The whole of government needs to be eradicated, needs to be sucked out right to its root. It's so corrupt. There's corruption everywhere. It's so disgusting. All right, guys. Thanks. Share this out. Talk to you later.